Hey, what's up guys, welcome to a new video. Today I'm gonna be doing a track breakdown on my latest Afro House remix for the song Best Friends by The Weeknd. So with that being said, let's jump right into it. Alright guys, so this is what our project file looks like. I have previously explained that I like to do my extended mix and my radio mix in the same file. That way, if I make any last minute changes to any sound, for example to the Respace, I could just copy over the new MIDI and paste it over to the other version and it would update automatically. When I was starting out this remix, I was just looking through my Spotify library, seeing which songs I thought had a cool vocal that I could remix. And the first thing I did was I downloaded the Acappella.
Oh, what we got, baby, what we got.
I extracted the Acappella using a website called lala.ai. I've showed it in previous videos, so I'm not gonna go too much in depth into that. But it's very easy to use. You simply have to drag your file into the website and then you can choose what instruments you want to extract. In this case, I chose the vocal. And then I added some audio processing, which consists of a basic EQ, removing some of the low frequencies, anything below 215 hertz. Then I added a de-esser at a very small amount just to get rid of some of those harsh sibilants. And I also have some sidechain, and it comes in and out depending whether the kick is playing or not. Then I have an auto filter that also comes in and out at certain parts of the song. And then in the master vocal group, I have a cashmere reverb, and I have it in parallel mode, which basically means that I still have the dry signal, but then I also have another reverb layer that goes under it. And this is just at 6%. I made it a tiny bit less wide, the vocal, and then some basic EQing just to boost a bit more the high frequencies. And to finish it off, I added a return channel with very short delay, and I EQ'd it like this. So if I solo that return channel, it would sound like this. And that really just helps to like fill up the space and make the vocals sound very big. So in context, it sounds like this.
Oh, what we got, baby, what we got.
Then I added some certain accents, for example, this reverse, which I made by basically taking just the first word of the vocal, adding some reverb, recording that, and then reversing it. I can make some videos on Ear Candy if you guys are interested. Then we also have this vocal percussion that I just made by taking a very short piece of the vocal and looping it over and over again. In the main build-up, we have this very Alex Wann type vocal looping. So after I finished with the vocal, the next thing I did was the respace. I like to do the res first so I can then build the chords on top of it. We have this song in E minor, so I just used the Ableton scale feature. So I already made a video explaining how to make your own respace. There should be a video like up here or here, and there you can learn how to make it in Serum or in operator, analog or wavetable within Ableton, but the same principles apply to any DAW. During the build-up, I have the filter cutoff open up, where it goes from this to this. I also have some side chaining. When the kick plays, it's at 91%, and while there's no kick, I turn it down. Then I have a utility making everything under 160 Hz mono. And finally, I have a filter that removes some of the low frequencies, for example, in the build up, and then brings it back down right for the drop. So for example, here, and then right into the drop. In context, I would sound like this. That's pretty much it for the respace. After I had that, I made the piano chords, which sound like this. So for this, I used the stock Ableton grand piano. Then I boosted some gain. I had some volume automation at certain points. And then for the actual MIDI, I used the randomize feature just so it could give me different velocities for all the notes. I played with it a couple times until I found one that I was happy with, and that makes it sound less robotic and a bit more human-like, as if someone was playing it. Then I also did some stereo and mono EQing. This is a bit more in depth. I can make a video on it, but basically I was boosting certain frequencies in the stereo signal and removing some of them in the mono signal just to balance it out a bit more in the mix. Then I had some more filtering with the auto filter where it opens up and closes back down. And finally, some very subtle sidechain that plays throughout the whole song. This one, because it's only at 29%, I didn't really automate it to come in and out at certain points. I just left it playing the whole time. After that, I made this piano melody. When you play it along the chords, they work really well together. For example, here. So when I was making that melody, I essentially just tried to use notes that I was already using in the chords to ensure that it would sound good when played together. So for certain parts of the song, I resampled that piano melody with a different sound and I played it down 1 octave. This was just basically to give some more variation to it and not have it play always in the same octave range. So after I finished with the piano, I basically took the same chords and put them in a pad. So this pad sound is just like a serum preset with some basic EQing. And to create that moving effect, I use Shaperbox. I use the filter engine and I put it at 1/16 and the mix at 43%. So without, it would sound like this. And with it, it really gives it that movement. So after I finished with the pads, I made this plug melody. I already made a video on how you can create your own Afro House plugs, so I'll put that somewhere on the screen. And yeah, this one has a lot of automation. It opens up, closes back down for the sustain, for the frequency, also for the side chaining. There's some basic EQing here, some volume automation, some reverb, and then once again some mid-side equalizing, basically removing some of those high frequencies in the mono signal and boosting them in the stereo signal. Then finally for the synths, I had a string sound just playing in E. And yeah, this one is just like a stock Ableton one with a tiny bit of reverb and some basic EQing. And if I play all of those synths together with the Respace, they all sound like this. So when all of those sounds are played together, they create like a really rich atmosphere in the song, in my opinion. They fill up all of the frequencies. If I pull up a span, you guys will see they're basically filling up most of our frequency spectrum. Now, when played along with the vocal, you see how much the space is already filled up. So now I'm going to quickly go over the drums. I already made a whole video explaining how I made all the drums more in depth, so I will link that somewhere in the screen. So this is what they sound like all together. We have a couple different layers. First we have the kick. Then we have our snare. This is all the processing. We have a shaker sound. We have another shaker. We have a tambourine. We have a clave. We have a hi-hat. This percussion sound. 3 different toms. And then we have a tonal percussion. So that's only the percussions, then with the snare. And then finally with the kick. For the effects, I basically have this hey sample that I took from the original vocal. And that plays throughout the song. Then we have a snare build-up. So with some volume automation, some auto filter, some basic EQing, and a limiter to control the volume. So then we have the white noise. I like to make it myself so I can control how long it lasts. To do it, I use an analog in Ableton. I turn off the other oscillators and I only keep the noise one. And then you basically just need to play a C3. I automate the volume and the filtering. So for example, in the build-up, this is what it sounds like. It starts with a lower volume and then it opens up and then it comes back down. And then finally, I have some atmospheric sounds. This is 3 different loops. This one I actually made from the vocal, just looped a very short part and add some reverb to it. And these other 2 I took from Splice. So the 3 of them together sound like this again. And these atmospheric sounds just provide like a sound bed for the song to be played on, basically. At certain points of the song, I have a crash and the same sample but reversed. Then on my master, I have an EQ, just cutting everything below 20 Hertz. Humans can't hear below that, so I just like to remove it just to make some more room to be able to bring up the loudness. Then I had some automations in certain parts of the song. I like to do this usually before the drop. I like to bring down the volume maybe by 1 dB or 1.5 dB, as well as bringing down the width of the song. So as the build-up keeps going up, the volume comes a tiny bit low, the song becomes a bit more mono. So as soon as the drop comes back in, I put the volume at 0 and the width at 100%. That way it will make a bigger impact in the listener, whether you're listening with headphones or in like big speakers. And I also do some slight filtering on the master channel at certain points. So then I have a clipper that's basically cutting everything above 5.8 dB. I did this just in case there was like any sounds that were going above that threshold, they would essentially get cut off. To do this, you need to be very careful to not do it to a point where you can actually hear the clipping. I like to do my clipping very subtle, but very efficient, where you can't really hear the clipper working, but it just allows you to bring the volume up. Then I boosted the gain once again by almost 4 dB and made everything under 120 Hertz mono. Then I had a glue compressor. I will play the drop of the song so you can hear when it activates. When the kick comes in, it's getting triggered ever so slightly. Then I increase the gain by 2 dB and add a soft clipper. Then we have this Oxford inflator just to saturate a bit the high frequencies. Then some basic EQing, boosting a tiny bit around 70 Hertz, then at 1000 Hertz, and then at 5000 Hertz. So here once again, I'm trying to boost the volume a tiny bit more. I'm trying to take it to the maximum level of loudness where it doesn't sound distorted or start sounding bad. But I still want it to be as loud as I can push it to be. Then here we just have this utility at the very end to control the very long reverb tail, because I don't want it to go on for too long. And these 2 plugins really help me when I'm mastering my songs. I always try to go for around anywhere between -7 to -8 LUFS. Sometimes, depending on the type of song that I'm making, I can push it to -6. And I will show you what I try to hit with the frequencies. So I always try for my songs to be a bit of a smiley face. So the bass to be hitting around minus 30 dB, and for the highs to be hitting anywhere between like minus 36, anywhere in this area. Of course, every song is different, so there's not like a one-size-fits-all formula. You need to trust your ears and just go with whatever sounds right. Alright guys, so that's gonna be it for this one. Remember, if you're interested in diving deeper into how I make all of these remixes, you can find the project file in my Patreon. It's already been there for a couple of weeks, so sometimes I do upload them there earlier than when I make the videos. If you found this video useful or entertaining, make sure to leave a comment, like, and consider subscribing. I've been very busy with university recently, but as I'm finishing with my exam soon, I will be making a lot more content more regularly. And if there's anything specific that you guys want me to make a video on, leave it in the comments and I will try my best to fulfill those requests. And with that being said, I will see you guys in the next video.